At 17, they cast me out. There was no drama, no shouting match, just a quiet, cold dismissal. A shadow fading from a room. The real daughter had returned, and just like that, everything that was mine, my home, my privileges, the family I thought I loved vanished. They never truly called me their own. I realized. Back then, I tried so hard to belong. I smiled. I obeyed. I aimed to please. It was all for nothing. The business contract I spent weeks drafting for my father's company, tossed aside, ignored. The charity gala I meticulously planned, canceled without a second thought. The family I had dedicated my life to, they stood by, unmoved, as the door closed behind me. That first night alone, I closed my eyes and allowed myself a single dream. A dream of returning, not to beg for their love, not to fight for a place that was never mine, but to simply be seen. To be seen for who I truly was. That night, I didn't fade into nothingness. I faded into preparation, a strategic retreat into the shadows they had confined me to. They thought I was gone, broken by their rejection. They were wrong. Silence, the very thing they used to dismiss me, became my greatest ally. It taught me to observe, to listen, to sharpen my mind without anyone ever noticing. While they celebrated their reunion, I was rebuilding myself from the ground up. I devoured knowledge of the financial markets they so arrogantly ignored. I relearned the legal intricacies of the contracts they had once stolen from me. I mastered languages, absorbed cultures, and learned the subtle art of influenceal from the quiet anonymity of my self-imposed exile. The months bled into a year. No letters arrived. No phone calls were made. They offered no acknowledgement of my existence. But with each passing day, I grew stronger, my resolve hardening like steel. I finally understood the truth. The world hadn't just underestimated me. They had created a force they couldn't possibly comprehend. Anger would have been too loud, too easy for them to dismiss. Pride, too predictable. I chose a different path. My power wouldn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It would creep in like the tide, silent, relentless, and absolute. And when it finally did, they wouldn't hear me shouting for attention. They would simply be faced with the undeniable truth. When I returned to the city, no one noticed. It was the same skyline, the same bustling streets, but I was no longer the girl who left. I walked back into the Vale Corporation building, not as the discarded heiress, but as a prospective partner. The same marble floors, the same hushed whispers of staff. Everything was familiar, yet I saw it all with new eyes. I didn't demand my old seat at the table. Why would I, instead? I observed. I listened. I asked seemingly innocent questions during board meetings questions. That subtly exposed the cracks in their foundation, the flaws in their strategies. Questions that revealed a depth of knowledge they couldn't trace. Soon, the contracts I had once drafted anonymously began to bear my fingerprints again. This time signed under my new identity, my new company. The board members, my father included, froze when the quarterly reports came in. The profits I generated for them, as an outsider, didn't just meet their targets. They shattered them. I saw Leela Vale, the real heiress, sitting across from me. She offered a polite smile, but her eyes were cold, calculating. She knew something was wrong. I never spoke a word against her. I simply watched as the confidence in their own abilities began to crumble, brick by brick. My hidden genius was at work, a quiet force dismantling their empire from within. There was no grand confrontation, no dramatic reveal. There was only the quiet, creeping sense of inevitability. And in that boardroom, surrounded by the people who had thrown me away, I realized a profound truth. They hadn't destroyed me all those years ago. They had only delayed the day they would finally be forced to recognize me. My first move was to acquire a small, overlooked tech firm they had deemed worthless. It was a company they had planned to dissolve, seeing no future in its innovative but undeveloped software. They laughed. They called it a sentimental purchase, a foolish waste of capital. But I had spent my time in the shadows studying patterns, predicting market shifts they were too complacent to see. I knew that software was the key. Within 6 months, I had refined the technology, secured patents they hadn't bothered with, and integrated it into a logistics network that was about to become the backbone of global e-commerce. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. Vale Corporation's stock plummeted as they scrambled to find an alternative to the very technology they had discarded. My father, the man who had looked at me with such indifference, now saw my face on the cover of every business journal. He saw my name, a name he had tried to erase associated with vision, with power. My revenge wasn't a fiery explosion, it was the slow, dawning horror in their eyes as they realized the empire they were so proud of was now dependent on the ghost they thought they had exorcised. They had taught me that sentiment was a weakness. I was about to teach them that ignorance was a fatal flaw. The family gatherings became an exquisite form of torment for them. They had to invite me now. My new status demanded it. I would arrive, always calm, always composed, and the conversation would halt. Leela tried her best to maintain her position as the cherished daughter. She would talk about her latest social triumph, a charity ball, or a gallery opening. I would then quietly mention a new international partnership I had just secured, a deal that would directly impact the Vale family's own portfolio. I never gloated. I didn't have to. The shift in the room was palpable. The way my father's attention lingered on my words, the flicker of fear in Lila's eyes that was my victory. She started making mistakes, getting desperate. She tried to sabotage one of my shipments, a clumsy, amateurish attempt that I saw coming weeks in advance. I didn't expose her directly. Instead, I let her plan unfold just enough for her own incompetence to be witnessed by the board. I simply presented the solution to the unexpected problem she had created, further cementing my reputation as a strategic genius. She was unraveling, and I was the silent witness to her fall. She had taken my place with noise and fanfare. I was taking it back with precision and silence. I was not just reclaiming what was lost. I was building something far greater on the ashes of their arrogance, proving that a true heiress isn't born or chosen. She is forged, and my trial by fire had made me unbreakable. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to follow for the next chapter of Serena's story.